Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Manchu starting as Jiangsu for EU4 1.34 Lions of the North. So Jiangsu is a nation located in the Manchuria region. We start off as a tributary of Ming, which is pretty helpful right at the start, and we border a bunch of other horde nations to our north, Ming to our west, and Korea to our south. Jiangsu is the prime candidate for forming Manchu, and I do think it is the strongest out of all of these horde nations located over here in Manchuria. And as Jiangsu, we're going to be forming Manchu in no time, and later we're going to go on to form Qing as well. Jiangsu and Manchu do share a short-ish mission tree, which will increase quite a bit when you form Qing, and Jurchen ideas are really strong. We start off with plus 10% morale of armies and plus 15% national manpower. Then we have minus 10% land attrition as a finisher, attrition for enemies, a double idea here, minus 1 national unrest and plus 0.5 yearly horde unity or legitimacy, plus 1 land area shock, manpower recovery speed, chance of a new era, improved relations, and possible Manchu banners, which are the unique types of units that Jurchen nations can recruit, and we will be getting some of them. Like I said, by playing as Jiangsu, you'll be crushing your horde neighbors real quick, forming Manchu, beating up Ming when they're low mandate, and becoming one of the most powerful nations in the world in no time. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Jiangsu. Alright, here we are as Jiangsu, and the first thing we're going to want to do is introduce the vision quest right here and adopt yellow shamanism. Next, we're going to go into our estates and summon the diet. As a tribal nation, we do only have one estate, the tribes, and we're going to go ahead and give them larger tribal hosts and primacy of the bannermen, unless you're going for that achievement, which requires you to have lots of banners. If you're going for that achievement, then don't take this. Later, when we have army tradition, we're also going to give them guaranteed leadership of host. Next, you can sell titles and seize land. Next, we're going to go ahead and raise 3 banner regiments in this one province right here. And you can also hire the free company right there. And then we're going to set some rivals, make sure to rival Haishi, and then whichever other nations have rivaled you, like Korshan and this other tribal nation in my game right here. And then we're going to put our ruler in charge of an army, but just for this first war right here, we actually don't want him to die. He is pretty decent. Next, even though we're not making money at the start, we are going to be hiring one advisor, a morale or a discipline, or fort defense level 1 advisor. I do have a discipline and fort defense guy, but I am going to take this discipline guy right here. Next, it's time to wait for December 12th. At this point, you can start improving relations with Ming and spying on Haishi. Once a month ticks over, we're immediately going to be declaring on Haishi. Sometimes they don't get any allies by this point, and in my case, they haven't gotten any allies, so we're good to go. But even if they ally one of these guys right here, you're still good to go, and you can very easily defeat them. So as soon as a month ticks over, declare on Haishi with the tribal feud CB for Jilin right here, and go ahead and beat up Haishi. That's your first war started. Of course, to form the nation of Manchu, we do need to own the province of Jilin, which we're going to be taking from Haishi now, and then 20 total provinces with Jurchen or Manchu culture. Of course, Manchu doesn't exist yet, so we are going to have to take Jurchen cultured provinces. Basically, we're going to be fighting the guys that are our neighbors. And once the war with Haishi is done, of course, you're simply going to full annex them. If they were allied to any one of these 3 nations right here, you can take provinces from them as well in this war. If not, if you're fighting just Haishi, of course, we are going to be full annexing them. And just like that, our first war is done. Because we are a horde nation, don't forget to raise these provinces so we get some nice monarch points and money from them. Now it's time to core this up and wait for our next war, which is going to be versus 1 or 2 of these nations right here. Try to fight some of these guys that are allied to each other. So in my case, Nanai over here isn't allied to one of these guys, so I wouldn't fight them. Instead, I would fight one of these 2 guys, which are allied to each other. Like I said, we're only looking for Jurchen cultured provinces right now. I did forget to mention, with this free merchant right here, you can go and collect from Beijing for now. Once this first war is done, you can go ahead and get another general. And you can also start spying on the nations that you're preparing to fight. Like in my case, these guys right here and these guys right here. This is just so we get our sieges done faster. And you may have noticed that we didn't ally anyone. The truth is, we don't need to ally anyone. Once you're done coring the provinces that you took from Haishi, you should be at 11 provinces. And like I said, we do need 20, and preferably not more, to form Manchu. This is because we will get cores on all of Manchuria, which is this region right here, so why take extra provinces that we'll have to pay points for instead of getting them later for free? So like I said, try and fight some of these nations over here. One of these 3. In my case, I'm going to declare on Orochoni right here. They have 7 provinces, which means we'll be at 18, so I need 2 more from their ally Shibei. I would co-belligerent them, but I won't because they're allied to Oirat. And instead, I'm just gonna make them end that alliance and take 2 provinces from them, so we're right at 20. So make sure to declare with the Tribal Feud CB and not a Conquest CB, and I'm gonna declare for this 1 province right here. And that's your second war started, versus 1 or 2 of these 3 nations right here. And now that I've crushed both of these nations, like I said, I took 2 provinces from Shiba right here and made them end their alliance with Oirat. I'm gonna take the remaining 8 provinces that I need from Orichoni. And if you are lucky enough with your alliances over here, you should have exactly 20 provinces by the time you end your 2nd or 3rd war. Like I said, it depends on the alliances. But that's my war with Shibe and Orichoni done. Now, as soon as we core these provinces up, we will be able to form the nation of Manchu. Basically, once you're at 20 provinces. And like I said, there's no need to fight someone like Korchin or these 2 guys up here because they aren't Jurchen cultured provinces, and we'll get cores on these 2 guys up here anyway. I did forget to mention another reason why Jiangsu is the best start out of any one of these Jurchen tribes is because we're the only nation that starts off with feudalism already present. None of these other guys have it. And once you've cored up all your provinces, you will be able to adopt Manchu identity, our country will change to Manchu, and the regular stuff happens. Of course, we are going to take new traditions and ambitions, and the Manchu ideas are minus 5% land maintenance and plus 1 later shock, along with plus 15% morale of armies as a finisher. Then we got plus 15% manpower and minus 15% CCR, a very, very good double first idea here, plus 0.25% possible Manchu banners, another double idea here with stab and institution spread, horde unity or legitimacy, calf combat, Miltech discount, and AE impact. Really, really strong national ideas. Now, once we do form Manchu, the Ming will get the event Rise of Manchuria, where they lose 50 mandate and we stop being a tributary of Ming. And of course, if you don't want to stop being a tributary of Ming, you could hold off forming Manchu until later and just conquer these guys manually without getting the cores on them. It's totally up to you when you want to form it. For a little added challenge, you should form them immediately. If you want it to be a little bit easier, you could form them later. But of course, if we're independent, the only nation that we can't fight is Korchin and Korea, which really we don't even need to fight them right now. Our main focus is still the remaining hordes over here, except for Korchin. Of course, once this happens, we also get the event Korea requests to become our tributary, where we can make them our tributary or just not do it. I do recommend making them a tributary for now. Once you form Manchu, you can simply continue with our conquests by fighting these guys up here. Or even if you've delayed the formation of Manchu, you should still take care of these hordes that are left. In my case, I'm going to be declaring on Solon right here. Of course, a reconquest because I have cores. If you don't have cores, tribal conquest, and I am going to co-belligerent Nivik over here as well. If by the time you form Manchu and you're independent, Oirat is still not a tributary of Ming, I do recommend that you try and ally Oirat. This isn't something that's necessary for the guide, but it will help you out a bit. And now that I defeated Nivik, I'll be piecing them out, and that's our cores in our hands. And now that I defeated Solon, I'll be piecing them out as well. Like I said, if these are your cores, this will be easy, but if you haven't formed Manchu yet and you're still Jiangsu, you can just fight these guys with the old CB. Now that I'm done with these wars, I'll be continuing along and fighting Nanai over here because Oirat, their ally, wouldn't join because they're busy with Ming. So it's just gonna be Korchin. Of course, I'm not gonna co-belligerent them because Ming would come in, but in my case, Ming actually wouldn't come in because they're already fighting these guys because they're fighting Oirat. So this is a very nice opportunity for me right here. But I'm instead not gonna take anything from Korchin to simulate the fact that you might not be fighting them as well if you're in the same situation like me. So I'm just gonna white piece them and leave them alive like it most likely would be in one of your games. Of course, if you can fight these guys without Ming coming in, then you should definitely do it. And there we go, I white pieced Korchin like I said earlier, didn't take anything from them, and now because I've defeated Nanai right here, I will be full annexing them. And in about 10 to 15 years, you should have fought all of these hordes right here, except for Korchin, and you should own everything. After that, you will be able to take the mission Dominate Rival Jurchens, which gives you plus 10% shock damage. But I do recommend saving it for when you fight Ming, and after you take this mission, you'll also be able to take this mission, which gives us morale of armies, manpower recovery speed, and a very nice general that will help us fight Ming. So, once you do this, don't take this mission or this mission. They will both be available. Once you've taken care of these guys and your capital has been automatically moved to Jilin, if you've become Manchu, if not, it's still in this one province right here, Jiangsu. It is time to start deving the Renaissance because we will be at Tech 4. So start deving it in this province right here, even if it's your capital or even if it's not your capital. Of course, don't forget to activate Encourage Dev and make sure you have Tech 4 in every category. And there we go, deving it to 36 has enabled me to spawn the Renaissance. Of course, I don't have enough money for this yet, so I'll wait around a little bit. We don't have burger loans, so we can't take advantage of that. At this point, I've allied Ashikaga, a nation that may help me fight Ming, although it's not guaranteed. Nations that you could try and ally are Oirat and Ashikaga. There aren't any other guys pretty much that would help you fight Ming. Of course, you can defeat them by yourself, and you don't need any allies. At this point, I've embraced the Renaissance. If you're still a Ming tributary, when you embrace the Renaissance, you should be able to sell it to them and make some nice income. At any point after you've done this, it is time to start preparing to fight Ming. And of course, you will want to catch them in a weak position, which they are in pretty often. Of course, they should have below 50 mandate, so they gain all of these negative modifiers, and ideally, they should have fought a war or two themselves, or fought some rebels and be at low army strength and manpower. In my case, they have about 70k troops and no manpower. But let's not forget, Ming is a very rich nation, and this won't really be a problem for them. The more important thing is the mandate. So, whenever you're ready, start buffing up. In my case right here, I am raising a bunch of banners, and I am gonna build this army pretty large right here and take us a bit over force limit. Don't be afraid to take out loans for this. We will get all that money back from Ming. And that's gonna be my army to fight Ming right here. 16-16. And at this point, I am also gonna take the mission Dominate Rival Jurchens, which gives me shock damage, and this mission right here too, which gives us morale, manpower recovery speed, and General Dorgan, which is a very powerful general, a 4-4 guy. The movement speed isn't that important, or maybe it is, for dodging large Ming stacks. Of course, make sure to get a morale or discipline advisor for this as well. In my case, I am gonna fire these two guys and instead hire this level 2 morale advisor. It is more important than discipline at this point, and we will want to have way better morale than Ming. You can of course go ahead and check the ledger as well in the army quality comparison. Just type Ming right here and you can see their morale. Even though their land maintenance is lowered, we still have a lot more morale than them. And once you're ready, you can go ahead and declare on Ming. Now, in this first war versus them, you will have a couple of CBs. You'll have a regular conquest CB on these claims that we got from our missions. You will have a reconquest for these cores right here. You will be able to declare with the Take Mandate of Heaven CB. And of course, you're going to be doing this at any point. It doesn't have to be now. Maybe you've stayed as a tributary, fought Fortune, fought Mongolia and Oirat, fought Korea. You can grow as big as you want to before you fight Ming. You can do it earlier or later. It doesn't matter. Like I said, pay attention to the same things, that they're exhausted and have low mandate. But it's totally up to you. Play at your own pace. You can even grow like this big, conquer all of this, conquer Korea, and fight Ming later. It's totally up to you when you feel ready to take them on. But going back to the CBs, you're going to want to make sure that you use the Tribal Conquest CB in your first couple of wars versus Ming. This is because this CB gets us war score from winning battles, which is the main thing we're going to be doing with Ming right here. We're going to focus on staying in pretty much this region right here in the flat terrain. Don't try to engage them in the mountains. Fight them in steppes, fight them in grasslands, fight them in farmlands. This is where you're going to be stronger. And in this first war, we're going to focus on taking this fort in Shenyang right here and a fort in Beijing, and then just beating up their army as much as we can until they lose all manpower, become sad, everything that needs to happen. So whenever you're ready, it can be 1457 like in my case, it can be 1507, it can be 1485, whenever you want to, whenever you feel comfortable, declare on Ming with the Tribal Conquest CB. And that's your first war with Ming started. Like I said, focus on taking these two forts and then staying in this area right here and letting their army come to you. Your army is stronger than yours, especially with General Dorgan, and especially if they have low mandate. Of course, when you do declare on them, you will be able to take the mission Bypass the Great Wall, where this event happens. Basically, we gain control over this province right here, and we get this other general, which is also pretty good if you have a second stack, if you're bigger, or if you have a mercenary stack running around. Keep in mind that if you're my size, and if you're fighting Ming right now, Ming will be able to walk through their tributaries and pop up in your north, so be mindful of that. If, of course, you own all of this, well then, you have other problems and need to worry about your big border. Now that I've taken Beijing, I'm going back to fight them, of course, in flat terrain, and I'm just gonna unpause right here and let it roll for you guys to see that we can crush their armies super easily. And just like that, it's like that army didn't even exist. And we can go and beat them up, of course, in flat terrain, remember. And for your tier 2 government reform, if you're still Jiangsu or Manchu, of course, you'll be taking martial society. Here's another battle up here in steppe terrain, and we can see that we're crushing them very easily once again. Now I'm gonna go down and fight them in Beijing. Another thing you might want to try and do is get a Miltech over Ming. Right now we're at same tech, but if you're fighting them later than me, you will find yourself in a situation where you have a 1 or 2 tech advantage over them. That's even better. And look at this, right now it's 1460, I'm like 2 or 3 years into my war versus Ming. I only have Beijing and Shenyang, these 2 forts, and I haven't lost a single battle so far. We're already at 65% war score, and we can get like 15 more, so we can be at 80% war score by just taking these 2 forts, these few provinces, and beating up their armies. Right now, they're at 51k troops, 2k manpower, mandate is still low and not growing. So even with a nation this size, even with me only being 264 dev and only having a 32k stack that's way over force limit, we can very easily beat Ming if we catch them at the right time. Like in my case, low mandate, and after they just got done with a war versus Oirat and don't have any manpower. So it can be done very easily, very early as well, but like I said, do it at your own pace. I'm just showcasing the war versus Ming here, how you're gonna do it no matter when you do it. Of course, the bigger you are, the easier it'll be, and that all depends on when you form Manchu. At this point in the war, I am attempting to siege down this fort as well, and I can even take Miltech 5, which will put me at a massive advantage over Ming. This is literally the best time to fight Ming. Tech advantage, low mandate, they don't have any manpower. You will find yourself in situations like this quite often with Ming. And there we go, after a couple of years of fighting Ming, winning every single battle, and just sieging down a few forts and the provinces over here up north, you can get to around 85% war score and you're totally done with your first war. And in your first war versus Ming, of course, I do recommend getting your cores back on these provinces right here, along with this province and Beijing, and then you should take all of their money, and that's your first war with Ming done. With this, you control either every or almost every province that you need to form Qing. You may not have Shillingol if you haven't fought Oirat/Mongolia yet, but that's not a problem at all. And as we can see right here, to also form Qing, we do need to be the Emperor of China, basically hold the Mandate of Heaven. Now, there are 2 ways to continue along from here when you're trying to form Qing. Either you could later declare on Ming with the Take the Mandate of Heaven CB and actually take the mandate for yourself and then play with the mandate. Now, lots of players don't like this, and I don't blame you, it is a different playstyle, but if you do take the Mandate of Heaven, you will become a special government form and you will have the Unified China CB, which gives you cores on the entire China region. So basically, you get all of this for 0 aggressive expansion and you can take lots of provinces, but you will stop being a horde and you will have to continue along and play with the mandate. If you don't want to take the mandate, of course, you should destroy it, and instead you need to become an empire government rank. And that way you can stay as a horde Qing, which is the other way. So either you fight Ming and take the Mandate of Heaven and be Emperor of China Qing, or you full annex whoever owns the mandate, in this case Ming, sometimes Shun can get it if they pop out, and if you annex the Celestial Emperor, this mechanic disappears and you can continue along and play as Horde Qing. I will be doing the second option, I won't be taking the mandate, even though if you do that, you will get cores on all of China, but it's totally up to you which route you want to take. But after you've crushed Ming once, you can easily defeat them again, and you can go ahead and fight their tributaries to deplete their entire treasury, make them pop out rebels, do the usual stuff. In my case, I'll chill for a very short time right here, lower war exhaustion, core these provinces up, and then I'll probably fight Korea just to take Ming's money all over again and reduce the truce with them. I'm sure lots of you know that that's how you fight Ming pretty much. Defeat them once and then keep fighting their tributaries so you can take their money and make them get into those disasters and pop out all the nations that pop out of them. Either way, with all of that done, it is time for me to take my first idea group, and of course you will be taking your first idea group as Jiangsu or Manchu, and the idea group that I recommend is Horde Ideas. Even if you form Qing, even if you become the Emperor of China, this is still a very good opener for the cavalry bonuses, for the religious unity, the AE impact, and everything else that comes along with it. Of course, it's even better if you're staying as Horde Qing for that cavalry combat ability. Later, we're going to be pairing up with the admin for even more core creation discount that is going to pair awesomely with Qing's ideas and not only as Manchu or Jurchen ones. So Horde Ideas, no matter what your gameplay is going to be like for your first idea group. Of course, you should be full of cash once you fight Ming for the first time. Go ahead and pay off all your loans. You should be able to do it very easily. And you can downsize your army a bit if you're over force limit. Once you've cored everything up from your first war versus Ming, it's time to fight one of their tributaries, whoever looks the easiest to you. I could fight Korchin, I could fight Oirat, Korea, and Korchin does look pretty small and tiny, but most importantly, you want Ming to join this war. So I'm just gonna declare a regular tribal feud versus Korchin right here. It doesn't matter who you're fighting as long as it's Ming's tributary, and make sure that Ming joins. In this war, the only thing we're gonna do with Ming is just take all of their money. That's it. So go ahead and fight them in flat terrain, siege down a fort or two, win some battles, and you can piece them out for all of their money, which in my case right here is going to be almost the same as what I took the first time. And at a certain point during the game, depending on how big you are and when, Ming will start getting the Unguarded Nomadic Frontier Disaster, which basically happens if they have a very large horde, basically above 300 death bordering them, that isn't their tributary. Of course, you could grow a little bit bigger by fighting some of these guys and then wait for it to happen, which will ensure that their mandate drops, and that is an awesome time to fight them as well. And there we go, I've beaten up Ming enough. I'm just gonna take all their money, that resets our truce with them, and it nets us a ton of income as well. Well, not really income, but cash. And I'll just go ahead and full annex their tributary, which is Korchin. And as soon as this war is done, I'll do the same, of course if Ming still joins. Let's see what happens if I want to fight Korea. Ming won't join, so I will wait a little bit for them to want to join or to blow up. And that's what you should be doing as well, fighting Ming tributaries, getting their money. You can use the money you take from Ming to buff up your country a little bit. Of course, as a horde, we aren't really gonna have a very good economy, and this is just a leftover. As we can see, it disappeared as soon as the month takes over, so I am gonna use some of this money to build some buildings that will help us, like a marketplace over in the center of trade provinces like Beijing, Jilin. I think I already built one here. Yes, I have. I am gonna put one over in this province, and then I am gonna go ahead and start building some workshops in the high value trade good provinces, a couple of churches here and there. There aren't a lot of high value trade good provinces in the region of Manchuria. The ones we want are basically in East and South China, so I am gonna get some churches going as well. Why not? And I am gonna upgrade some centers of trade, like the one in Beijing, the one in our capital, and the one over here. Of course, at any point in the game, don't forget to lower autonomy whenever you can. This will give us more manpower, more trade income, and it's generally a good thing to do. You will get some more rebels if you do this, but it's still army tradition when you fight them. When you build some churches, you will be able to take this mission. You should do it. And once you're able to recruit 8 banners, no matter at which point in the game that is, you will be able to take the mission, the 8 banners, which gives us permaclaims on these areas right here. Areas that we do want to conquer, especially Shillingol right here, because we do need it to form QING. And basically, keep recruiting banners instead of regular cavalry. They do reinforce very slowly, but they are way cheaper, they use way less manpower, and they have more discipline. At this point, after I beat up Ming quite a lot, it seems that Korea is no longer their tributary, and neither is Oirat. They've declared on Ming themselves, which means I can't continue along with my strategy of fighting Ming vassals to weaken Ming even further. But it shouldn't be a problem, rebels are already popping up, they're at 0 mandate, and Ming, at this point, after you fought them 1 to 3 times, they will start blowing up. So if you can't fight their tributaries anymore, start expanding in whichever direction you want to. If you already own all of this, you can start pushing into Ming, into these guys over here, maybe even in these hordes, depending on your expansion opportunities. If you're my size right here and followed along with the guide pretty closely, then you could fight Mongolia and Oirat or Korea, or maybe even try and invade Japan if you've built up a sizable navy. In my game right here, I'll be continuing along by declaring on Korea, since they're not a tributary of Ming and they don't have any allies, so this will be easy. I would have preferred if they were a tributary of Ming, so I can take their money again, but it is what it is. Make sure to always use the Tribal Conquest CB as long as you're a horde, and not the regular Conquest one. When you go ahead and fight whichever of these nations you're bordering, like Korea, Mongolia, Oirat, basically any of the immediate neighbors will fight, aside from Ming and the Jurchen tribes. Take as much as you can from them. I just beat up Korea in my case, so I'll go ahead and take these provinces up north, and then I'll go ahead and do something like this. As you can see, it's not a lot of aggressive expansion at all. And that's your first war with Korea done. You'll take about half of them. If you're fighting Mongolia in this case, make sure to take Shillingol. Of course, whenever you're fighting these guys that you don't have cores on, don't forget to raise the provinces. You should still be a horde at this point. You could have formed QING this early, of course. It is possible to form QING in around 15 years, but by using this guide, you won't be doing that early, so make sure to go ahead and raise everything you conquer. Of course, if you're overflowing with Diplo points, like I am right here in my situation, go ahead and convert some provinces. The more Manchu cultured provinces we have, the more banners we can raise. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start converting a bunch of these cheap ones. At this point, I am gonna give the tribes guaranteed leadership of host. For your first stage ability, depending on when you take it, you could take this one, Adaptive Combat Terrain, to get a bonus of combat in grasslands to help you fight Ming, at least in these areas right here. If not, you can definitely go ahead and take Justified Wars. At this point, while I'm this size, I am gonna start building up my navy right here in order to prepare to invade Japan later on in the game. this is not too much of a focus right now. We don't really care what happens here. And of course, the less nations there are in Japan, the easier it'll be. You don't want to fight Ashikaga and all their daimyos, so make sure to build a bunch of transports and galleys for this. That's pretty much the only thing you need. I'm gonna go ahead and get like 20 transports going right now, and then as my force limit increases, I'll start building more galleys. And of course, you will want to take the galley combat ability for this. This isn't too important right now, just a general tip. Like I said, Japan, it's not really a focus. Once your truce with Ming is up, whether it's your first one, your second one, or your third one, basically, whenever any of your truces have expired, it is time to get your second conquest war going against them. Of course, like I said, if you want to form Qing, you are gonna declare using the Take Mandate of Heaven CB, where you become the Celestial Emperor. Then you'll be a Chinese Kingdom government type, and you will have cores on the rest of China, basically taking all of this for free. If you want to stay a horde when you form Qing, you're just gonna keep pummeling them with the Tribal Conquest CB and make Ming not exist. Basically, whoever is the emperor not exist. Like I said, since I'll be going with a horde Qing, I won't be taking the mandate now, and instead I'll just completely dismantle this mechanic. So there we go, Tribal Conquest, and that's your second war with Ming started. It's pretty much the same as the first time. Siege down their capital in a fort or two, and keep fighting them in the flat terrain. You should once again be able to get to around 80 or 90% war score just by doing that. And there we go, I'll rush straight for their capital. After we took horde ideas for our first idea group, no matter if you're still Jiangsu, still Manchu, or even Qing at this point, for your second idea group, you will take admin ideas. We do need the gov cap, we will be growing very large, the admin tech discount and advisor stuff is great. We won't be using mercs that much, but it'll still help out. But the most important thing is the minus 25% core creation cost. We do already gain another 25% or 20 I think when we form Qing, so this will pair super well with that. And we gain even more manpower and manpower recovery speed as a policy between these two idea groups. So admin ideas for your second idea group. For your tier 3 government reform, while you're still Jiangsu or Manchu, you should go for lip service for some cheaper armies. Sure, the stab discount and religious unity is great, but we don't really need it that much, so why not save a few ducats? And I just got a pop-up that Ming is in the nomadic unguarded frontier disaster right now. It just happened for them. It does tick pretty slowly at the start, but with various events it'll tick up. They just lost a bunch of stab, they're at 0 mandate, and separatists are starting to pop up. So right now, the blowing up of Ming has started in my game after I beat them once and took provinces from them, beat them another time and took money from them, and then they lost to Oirat, and now they're losing to me. So this is pretty much the end of Ming Raid. At this point, someone else may get the mandate, in which case it'll be even easier for us to dismantle it, by fighting Shun for example. And there we go, after a couple of years of war, we're at the same war score that we had earlier, and in your second conquest war versus Ming, you're gonna focus on taking their coastline, or as much of it as possible. And there we go, that's about all I can take. In your next wars versus Ming, you don't need any money. Basically, after you beat them the first time and take ducats once or twice from them by fighting tributaries, in your second conquest war, take 100% war score worth of land. And that's your second conquest war with Ming. Done. Of course, if at this point you don't feel like you're strong enough to fight Ming, and you're still fighting their tributaries, and you're still Jiangsu and their tributary, of course you should focus on Korea, Oirat, and Mongolia, and growing large. After that, you can form Jiangsu, break the tributary status, and fight them when you're about this size pretty much, except you haven't expanded down here, and instead you've expanded in Korea, and in Oirat and Mongolia. Now that I've chilled a bit from this war with Ming, I'll be continuing my conquest by fighting Mongolia. And of course I'll declare with the Tribal Feud CB, and as you should as well, for Shillingol right here, a province that we need to form Qing. The war with Oirat and Mongolia is pretty annoying since they're so large, at least they appear very large, so you will have a lot of walking around to do, and I do recommend sort of a line sieging, like something you would do in Hoi 4, basically putting an army here, 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 and here, and then just moving all of them simultaneously as a line. And there we go, now that I have about 90% war score versus Oirat and Mongolia, with almost no battles fought by the way, I am gonna be piecing them out. And when you fight these guys, take as much as you can over in this region right here. So what I'm gonna do is take the province of Shillingol since it is important, and then I'm gonna take everything else that I can around it, maybe a little something like that. And that's your first war with Oirat and Mongolia done. It will be slow fighting these guys, but it is what it is, and we do have to do it. After you conquer every province in this region right here, North Hebei and Liaoning, you will be able to take the mission Invade China, which gives you manpower recovery speed and a land maintenance discount. And by the way, if you're wondering why the only thing I'm doing with my diplomats is spying on Korea and Ming and not even improve relations, not doing anything like that, it's just so we have sieges tick faster. And we don't really need them to do anything else. We don't need them to spy, we already got CBs, and not a lot of people know that we're doing this, so no one is pretty much mad except for Ming. We don't need to be improving relations or nothing like that. Now that my truce with Korea is done, I'll go ahead and fight them again. You'll be doing the same pretty much, even if you're this big and you fought Ming, or even if you haven't. We're just pushing into Korea and Oirat and Mongolia. That's it. Those are pretty much the only nations we can fight, at least in the early game. Korea still doesn't have allies, they're not a tributary of anyone, and there we go, tribal conquest once again. And now that I've defeated Korea in my second war, I'll be piecing them out once again. You will need 3 wars to take down Korea, so what I'm just gonna do is take these two provinces, and Jeju, and then these 3 I'll leave for later. And that's my second war with Korea done. That's about what your second war with them should look like as well. If you ever find yourself over gov cap, make sure to give the tribes land rights. Interestingly enough, Ming still hasn't blown up in my game. Hopefully they will have in yours. And once your truce with Ming is done, of course you are gonna keep pummeling them. I'm still continuing to use the tribal conquest CB. And there we go. Take as much as you can. Once again, don't focus on the money, only land. Still the coastline though. For your tier 4 government reform, while you're still a horde, you should take centralized power for even more CCR. And there we go, my war with Ming is done, and I'll once again be taking as much as I can. Well, not as much as I can, I don't want to be over 100 overextension. We're still focusing on their coastline. And that's what your wars with Ming should pretty much look like. It's not very complicated, there's not a lot of philosophy to this, you're just beating up Ming. Of course, once colonialism spawns, you're going to be deving that as well. Try to dev it in sort of this area right here, close to your capital, or close to these areas that are farmlands right here near Beijing. In fact, even though Beijing is pretty highly devved, it should still be pretty cheap to spawn the Renaissance in, so I do definitely recommend going for that. And there we go, more than enough points left over, and I already spawned colonialism. Now that my truce with Oirat is up, I'll continue along and fight them as well. Once again, using the tribal feud CB for a province that's near you. For example, this one right there. And there we go, this very quick and easy war with Oirat is done, and I'll be taking as much as I can, just like that. Of course, if you want to fight other nations sooner, you might want to do something like this and snake all the way to these other hordes, or maybe these guys over in this region, and do something like that, if you're a border gore enjoyer, of course. But that's not something I'm interested in my gameplay right here, so I'll just go ahead and take stuff like this. And there we go, that's as much as I can take. And finally, because my truce with Korea is up, I will go ahead and declare on them as well. And now that I've defeated Korea, I'll full annex them. They even have a province as Japan over here, which I'll use as a launching pad to conquer Japan. And that's Korea, down and out. You should have taken care of them by this point as well. And once you do, you will be able to take this mission, which gives us Diplorep and Prestige. And by around the 1500s, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Jiangsu, declared on Haishi, fought some of these other guys to get 20 provinces, and after that, you could have formed Manchu if you wanted to immediately break your tributary status with Ming, and if not, you could have stayed as Jiangsu, fought these guys up here, fought Oirat and Mongolia, fought Korea while staying a tributary of Ming, and then whenever you were ready, you could have formed Manchu to break that tributary status, and then you were watching out for Ming's mandate. When it was low, when Ming was weak, that was the time to strike. You could fight these guys at any time. You didn't have to do it super early like I did. And at this point, you could still be a tributary of Ming, depending on how strong you feel. But by around this point, you should have all of this right here for sure. You should have full annexed Korea, fought Oirat and Mongolia a couple of times, and you may own this from Ming. And by this point, you're ready to form Manchu and you're ready to form Qing whenever you want to, if you want to take the mandate, like I said, and gain cores on all of China and play with the mandate, or if not, you should full annex the mandate holder like Ming, and then just form Qing manually by becoming an empire and taking this decision without the empire of China existing. After you do that, after you form Qing, you're probably going to be around this big, own all of China and all of this right here. After that, you could continue to expand wherever you want to. Go ahead and expand in Japan. You can fight the hordes if you want to, fight the Southeast Asian guys if you want to, and pretty much the world is your oyster after you form Qing. By this point, of course, you should have been doing a little bit of deving. Even though we're a horde, you will have excess monarch points, so put them into some provinces that you think are useful. Upgrade the centers of trade just like that. That should be pretty easy for you. You should have been building a ton of marketplaces in the center of trade provinces, a bunch of production buildings in the high value trade good provinces. We don't have a lot of them, a couple of churches, and of course later on you're gonna spam courthouses to reduce that gov cap. And by this point, you should be one of the most powerful nations in the world. I'm number 2 on the great powers list right here myself, only behind the Ottomans, ahead of all of these guys that you're seeing right here. And you should be a very powerful nation economically, even though right now I have a huge army, so I'm not making that much money, but my army is pretty much consisting of 58,000 troops right here, an even number of infantry and cavalry. We are a horde technically. You should be recruiting banners, like I said earlier. I can recruit 36 right now because I have been doing a lot of culture converting, and you might do that as well if you have some spare diplo points. This is pretty much what we took for our government reforms right here. Like I said, if you're planning on staying a horde, then for your final reform, you should go with barbaric despoilers, don't turn into a monarchy just yet. You'll be doing this way later down the line. And if you become a Chinese kingdom, basically if you take the Mandate of Heaven, you'll become the celestial government type and you'll be taking all of those nice reforms then. But I do think playing as a horde Qing is a slightly better way to go. No matter where you form Qing, no matter when you form Manchu, no matter when you stay as Jianzhu, you'll be opening up with horde and admin ideas. For your third idea group, you could take another mill idea group if you want to, such as quality, or even later if you get Aristo, when you flip to a regular monarchy, you could lean into the whole cavalry combat meme. But honestly, you don't even need mill idea groups, so after this, you should definitely go for something like Diplo to help you take more provinces, and something like Humanist to help you get less rebellions. Of course, for a religion, we did start off as Tengri with Confucian as a syncretic faith. You should keep this because you will be conquering a lot of Confucian provinces, but you could flip to some of these other ones if you want to, or even not have a syncretic faith for massive cap to infantry ratio, although in my game it's already at 85 right here, which means we could field a massive cavalry army. And like I said, around the 1500s, your realm should look a little something like this. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.